And verse 12. Okay. And we're going to take a look at some of those proteins that are feed.
What chapter, Pastor? What
Wrong
chapter?
page, what? Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we get you on the right chapter.
Chapter 6 is yours. Verse 12.
Get it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I have one. Thank you.
Chapter
Yeah,
6.
I found
Chapter 6 in your test. Turn to that. Chapter 6. Okay, and we made it down to verse 12. We're going to look at verse 12 through 17.
All right.
Nice. And so we've been looking at the seals, okay? And so in this training, what the seals were. And also, you'll notice here, the seal, we're talking about, we just finished the church age. The Lord has come and raptured us up. Now we are in heaven with the Lord. As we deal with it from here on, we're dealing with the two seeds. Some seeds are going on earth, some are going on in heaven. In other words, God's with us, heaven is up here. And then on earth, these are taking place on earth during the 7-year tribulation. You understand? Anybody have a question, problem with that? You understand? Okay, now, remember as you look at the chart here, Israel then becomes the people that God is going to use on earth, because the church has been raptured up. The church is the Gentiles. If you're not a Jew here today, you are a Gentile. Don't forget that. And so the Gentiles were taken up. Now, some Jews went up too. Some Jews were saved too. But as a nation, though, now God's using them again. He's going to use them, and that's called Daniel's 70th week. That was never fulfilled in the Bible prophecy. So since it was never fulfilled, it's going to be fulfilled during these 7 years. Because God's using Israel, the church is gone. Understand? And all. And so we're going to be seeing here, we're going to be in heaven. God's going to give us crowns for what we did during the 2,000 years of the church age. And so then he began to show us what will happen on earth. So he opened up the seals. There was the seven sealed book. And if you remember what happened, when we were in heaven now, and we're up there, we've just been raptured up, and there's a book, and nobody can open it. It's called the seven sealed book. These things have been sealed and all because they're not going to happen yet. But only one could open that in heaven. Who was that? Does anybody remember? Jesus was the only one who could open it. And so here's what those seals represent. The first seal represents what's going to happen on earth at the beginning of the tribulation. That there would be a white horse coming. And the man on the white horse, that man on the white horse was known as the Antichrist. You understand?
Yes.
Okay, he's known as the Antichrist. And so, we think about the Jews and God's always used them. He used them to make America. People don't know that. They don't know their history. But there was a man named Solomon, and he was a Jew. He was living in America, and he was very rich. He had $25 million. Jews know how to make money. They just have the brains. And so when the war started, that was the war with the British and all, called our revolution and all. And so after we began that war to drive out England, that's the British, or England if you want to call them, they have several names, and to drive them out, and then we had to raise an army. But at that time, the British had the largest army in the world, the greatest navy in the world. They had it all. And so we had to go ahead and have money to buy gunpowder and clothing and shoes for those soldiers that would fight. And so as a result, then somebody came along, somebody came through. It was Solomon. Solomon had $25 million. A lot of money then. It's a lot of money now. He spent all that money during the war, going ahead and taking care of the soldiers, seeing that they ate, seeing that they had clothing, all through that entire war that we had with Britain. And so after he gave it all, And after that, we organized as a nation then, and we met and set up our Constitution. And George Washington told him, he said, "Well, there's nothing we can do right now, but we are going to do something for you." He said, "No, I don't want nothing. You don't have to pay me nothing." And so they didn't. They didn't have no money. And so, but he finally died, Solomon did. He died a pauper with nothing. He gave it all to so we could become a nation. And you won't read that in the public school. You go to public school, you don't get that stuff. But you need to know that. You need to know how our nation was built. And that's how it was done. And then, of course, God intervened. And when the war was over, the King of England said, the only way that they could have defeated us is it had to be God. That's what the king said. He said it had to be God. God intervened. But anyway, but you didn't know how God has used those Jews. He's going to use them in a great way here. Before the church age, he used them in a great and a mighty way as a nation. And had the greatest kings, and God gave them the law. And they were everything to the world. But now, here they come back. They're a nation again. We're going to see the day what they're going to really do for God. But the Antichrist is going to come in. He's going to fool everybody. Going to come in on a white horse. They're going to think he's the Messiah. Yes.
Okay, you're talking about the horses? The
Yeah.
white horse, red horse?
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Are those literal?
Well, that's
Literal?
their example, and they probably are, and all, because he came riding on a white horse. Probably came riding into Jerusalem on the white horse. Okay, and then after him came the red horse. What did that red horse represent then? It represented, of course, war. The black horse came, represent famines. Then the pale horse came, represent more than just famines, bad things on earth. And then the great earthquake, that's the next seal right here. And all these are the different seals that we've been going through. And then we come to the end of the time of the 7 trumpets. Now we're going to look at, and that's the wrath of the Lamb and the 3 woes. So these 7 trumpets here are going to mean something. Every time they blow a trumpet, it means something that God's going to do to earth. Because God's pouring his wrath out on earth now during those years. He's doing that because they killed the Christians through the ages and God's people. Yeah. The world, the lost world did, the lost people. We paid the price to be a Christian. You need to know that. And they're paying it right now. And I've got some news I want to read you. You say, well, here's how they're paying it. Now listen to this. Now, maybe some of you know what happened down in Afghanistan. Who knows what happened in Afghanistan? Huh?
Oh, yeah, they brought all the troops out and left the Christians there.
Yeah, okay, listen to this. And this is the sword of the Lord, this news that they just got. They print it, they keep us informed so we know what's going on. You won't find this in the newspapers, but we can find out because we're Christians. So we let everybody know what's happening. And this is on page 2 here, the sword of the Lord. You ought to get this paper. You can get that in your mail every month. And it lets you know what's happening. It has great sermons in it and stuff that you can listen, read by some of the great preachers of the past. He said, the Taliban are carrying out mass executions. Okay. Less than a month after the U.S. withdrew troops from Afghanistan, the Taliban are arresting, in some instances, executing people they perceive as their enemies. Recent photos and video suggest they're killing as many as 30 to 40 at a time. Christian missionary David Eubank, a former U.S. Army Special Forces Ranger officer, said in a media interview, he said, the Taliban, are hunting down people right now. They're trying to get all the names of everyone they perceive as an enemy. Eubank said, adding that the enemies include people who work with the U.S. government, people who are with other governments, people who work with non-governing organizations they don't agree with. And the people in Afghanistan are in terror, Eubank added. almost all Afghan Christians estimated to be between 8,000 and 12,000. Did you get that? Almost all Afghan Christians. Okay, and a lot of them were saved during our 20 years there because we had soldiers that were saved and were soul winners. And they went out to win souls. And all, I mean, some of the Christians that didn't do nothing but sit around and eat and do what they're supposed to do. But then the real Christians, the born-again believers, the real Christians, like you, they were going to get them saved. And they did. And all. And he said almost all Afghan Christians, estimated to be between 8,000 and 12,000, are converts from Islam and remain largely closed, hidden from the public eye due to severe persecution. The Afghans leaving Islam is considered extremely shameful, and converts can face dire consequences if their conversion is discovered. And so we find out what they're doing, okay? You need to understand what's happening over there. And so it just gives you an idea. I'll bring you some more next week so you can really know and get an idea. But anyway, the last one I read a couple of days ago, one church had 300 members in it. The Christians had to hide because they were hunting them down. And some of them in their homes, if they had a daughter that was 12 years old, every Afghan that had a daughter that was 12 years old had to put an X on their window. That meant they had a daughter that was 12 years old. That meant that she was ready to get married and become a wife of a Taliban soldier. They believe you can have 7 wives, the Muslims do. But however, if you did not put an X on your window that you had a 12-year-old daughter and they found out, they came and got you, the parents, and took them out and cut their heads off or shot them. And they gave the little girl to a soldier. Okay? But of that church of 300, the time they was able to get news out, and they can through radio in different ways, and there's only 35 members left. They killed all of them already. Okay? So that's what's happening. Okay? And all. So anyway, so you need to get the idea. But anyway, getting back, now we're going to be looking at the judgments tonight as we come to the close of the seals, because he told us what these would be with the seals, with the judgments, and with the trumpets, the 7 trumpets. And so he used these things to show us what is going to happen on earth as we're in heaven. Okay? Well, let's take a look now, and we're in chapter 6, verse 12 through 17. He says, "And I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal," right here, that's where we're at now. We're on the 6th seal, okay? Now, these things have happened on earth already. There's the Antichrist came, he's revealed, and death is starting to take place through wars and murders and through famines, and they're dying like that, okay? And so we see here now the 6th seal is open. Behold, he opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became as black as sackcloth of hair. Now this on the whole earth, not just a little earthquake over here in Colorado or California. It's on the whole earth. A great earthquake. And the sun became black as sackcloth as of hair. And that's like trying to look through this black jacket here, okay? And all, and you can barely see through it if you hold it up in the light. And it said, the moon became as blood. So when the earthquake comes, all things happen, and a lot of fire is taking place. I don't know if you know what happened at San Francisco in 1902. How many of you know about the Sacrificial Earthquake? That was 1902. It was big, and all the buildings collapsed, houses collapsed, thousands were killed from the earthquake, and all because of sodomy. God said, "That's it. I'm not going to put up with that no more." He gave him the earthquake to try to wake him up. Okay. The moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell into the earth. Notice that. When the moon looks like blood, it comes from fires, by the way. All the burning fires and all the smoke in the air. The stars of heaven fell into the earth. And so look what's happening now. There's a great earthquake on the earth, and stars are falling down. And I don't know how many of you ever seen a falling star before. You ever seen one coming down? Yeah. They're going to be everywhere. Okay? Even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs. And when she is shaken of a mighty wind, going to be mighty winds everywhere, like hurricanes everywhere, probably tornadoes. Okay? And that's what the wind does. And the heaven departed as a scroll when it rolled together, and every mountain and every island were moved out of their places. Did you get that? Now, is there any mountains around here? They're going to be moved out of their places. What that tells me, you better get your family saved and all, and you better quit messing around, because the earth, these mountains are going to come falling down and all. They're going to be moved. Did you get that? That's what it said. Out of their places. The islands. Is there any islands around here? Huh? You hadn't seen no islands? Is there any islands? There's several out there. And all. Several islands in the lake. They're going to be moved. That water's going to go somewhere where it's going to go. The whole earth's going to come up. It's going to move. Water's going to go everywhere. Earthquake. Mountains are going to be falling down. Wind's going to be blowing like you wouldn't believe. And all this is taking place all at once. You understand? And he described Utah here real good. Yeah, I mean, we have the mountains, we have the islands, and all. And he said every mountain and island were moved out of their places. Did you get that? Every one, not some. Every one were moved out of their places. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains. That's what's happening on earth. These rulers and leaders. Okay. Mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man. What country is the one known as the free? The people are free. What country is that? Is that maybe?
Could be Colombia.
Huh?
It could be Colombia.
Colombia? Okay. You think? Who else do you think it could be? Who knows the land of the free and the brave?
Oh.
That's the USA. Yeah, that's what that is. We're the only one known as the free and the brave. America is. And the world knows it. They all want to come here to get free.
Is that what it is, Pastor?
That's the reason that they're coming and charging the border, trying to get across. They're tired of being under tyrants, the government's under tyrants and everything. They want to come here and all, and they are. And so anyway, he said, take a look at here. They hid themselves in the dens and the rocks and the mountains, and they prayed to the rocks to fall upon them, and they still would not turn to God. And so we see here what's happening on this earth at that time when this great earthquake takes place. And got to remember, we are all here. We're gone, but there's people on earth going to get saved. And so let's take a look and see how that's going to happen. And all, they said that this here, looking at that text, there'd be a time of sorrow upon the earth. And believe me, there will be. And so now we need to move on to the next chapter. So we see what happened right here. This seal was taken. God opened the seal so they would know, and we can know what's going to happen on earth. We Christians need to know, and then all the lost can't understand this. But we need to know so we can get our loved ones saved, so we can get everybody we can saved. Are we doing that? Are you doing that? Are you just living your life and eating and all? Is that what you're doing? Or are you on fire for God? I mean, are you really care? Do you really know this is going to happen? It's going to happen. When we're up, we're gone. Okay? This is going to happen right here on the earth. And so we better get busy. This is coming real quick.
Sure is.
Okay, I'm going to prove to you it's coming real quick here in the weeks ahead. Okay? Now, when we're there. All right. Now, take a look here at chapter 7 now. This is a scene in heaven. Now, again, this is taking place in heaven. He's in heaven telling what's going to happen on earth during this time. Now, we're scenes in heaven again.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to be? Do you think we're going to be actually witness? Do you think we're going to be actually witnessing it ourselves?
No, we're going to be up
Well,
here.
no, I mean, we're going to be in heaven.
We're going to be finding out if we earned a crown or not while we lived on earth.
Oh, okay.
That's where we're going to be.
Okay.
God's going to find out if you tithe it. He's going to find out if you cared to win souls. He's going to find out when you came to church on Sunday morning, did you bring someone with you or drive in with just you in an empty car? I'm telling you, that's what he's going to do. I mean, we have lost people living all around us. Have you been on their door? They ask if they'll come to church with you.
Yes, sir.
See, have you?
I have.
That's what we better do. And all. Yeah, we're going to be right here. And all. A lot of them is going to bow your head in shame. A lot of them, well, I know you won't because y'all are all soul winners and want people to be saved. But I'm talking about those nominal Christians. You know, they don't want to do nothing. They won't give nothing. They won't witness anybody. They won't give a tract out. They won't do nothing. They just, some of them come to church once a month. Some maybe come at Christmas and Easter. Yeah. And when the offering plate is passed by, they go ahead and put $1 in it. And we sing that song, Jesus Paid It All. And they walk out the door saying, Jesus paid it all to him I owe. You know what it costs to get me saved? Huh? How much? Over $50,000. Somebody gave it. Somebody has to go ahead and give money to keep these church doors open and keep the pastors raising money for the missionaries in the foreign field. You know, somebody has to go ahead and give that money. Electricity is expensive. I mean, the heater broke down in the church today. It's going to cost, he wanted $9,000 to fix it. Okay, that costs money to keep the doors open, you understand? And all. And so we got to do our part. Well, so we're in chapter 7 now. And he said, between the 6th and 7th seal judgments. And so we're right here. And now get this. And they can look at the judgments. And see, the seals are, we come to the get you where we're supposed to be. And we're going to look at the martyr souls in heaven. We're going to look at the great earthquake. We just saw it. Now the 7 trumpet judgments are going to come. We're going to see the wrath of the Lamb. God's mad. He don't like it that they're down on earth killing their Christians. This Antichrist came in on that white horse. Everybody thinks he's Messiah, and they're going to listen to him. And finally they're going to wake up and realize he ain't it. Okay? It's going to be too late, though. You can see it's too late. You know. And so anyway, the wrath of the Lamb is poured out on earth. It begins with the great earthquake. All right. Let's look a little further here. Now notice here in verse 1, he said, now let's look at the introduction to chapter 7. Chapter 7 is a parenthetical chapter at this between the 6th and the 7th seal judgments. Following the 7th trumpet judgment, Israel's past and future are dwelt with, parenthetically, in chapter 12. In chapter 15, we have the whole chapter given over to preparation for the 7 vial. So we're going to have the vial judgments. We're going to look at those. These 7 judgments follow one after another without the familiar parenthesis between the 6th and 7th judges. Now, verse 1. This is the scene in heaven. Now, we're up in heaven, and he's telling more. Okay, he said this here. And after these 3 things, I saw 4 angels. Now, don't forget these 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And so now they're holding back the wind. Now there was a big wind when this was taking place here, and now there's no wind. Okay, and the wind's important. I met an old timer one time at Montana. I said, "What year were you born?" And he's probably 90 years old. He said, "I was born during the year of the big wind in Ireland." So I don't know when that was, but there was a big wind in Ireland sometime in the past. But anyway, he said, the 4 corners of the earth has been a subject of much debate. And what this is talking about is the north, south, east, and west. That's referred to as the 4 corners of the earth, okay? So that's what that is. And so let's look at verse 2. We need to move on here. We've got a lot to do. Verse 2 says, and I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea. And that's something, God's sending some angels that do some of this stuff on earth. The angels come from the direction of the rising of the sun. It is translated this way. Barry's Interlinear New Testament, And that's it in Greek and compared to English. It may not mean much to most people that these angels come from the east, but it must be noted that both the tabernacle in the wilderness and the temple in Jerusalem face the east. Also, Malachi 4:2 compares the coming of Christ with rising up when it says, "But unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with the healing of his wings." The angel is coming for the purpose of caring for the servants of God who are to be his witnesses during the tribulation. Okay? It is clear that the four angels are preparing to bring great judgment upon the earth. And so they've come, these angels are here, they're preparing now for these Jews to go ahead and begin to do their job. That's the saved ones. And they probably got saved when the rapture took place. They probably got saved. Okay, and are getting saved. All right. I witnessed to many of them, dealt with many of them. We've had some in the church. They're very intelligent. They're different than us. Now look at verse 4-8. I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Now of the tribe of Judah were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Reuben were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Gad were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Asher were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Naphtali were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Manasseh were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Simeon were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Levi were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Isher were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Zebulun were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Joseph were sealed 12,000. Of the tribe of Benjamin were sealed 12,000. Now we see here that now these here are sealed, and God, that means God's going to use them for a reason. The number of the sealed is clearly given, and their identity also clearly stated. They are Hebrews and Israelites, 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes of Israel. Anyone who claims to be one of the 144,000 who are not Israelites have during the 7 years of tribulation are deceived. Okay, now there is a religious group that claim that they're made up of the 144,000. Who is that?
Jehovah's Witness.
The Jehovah's Witness. That's what they do. So they claim they're of the 144,000. You know they're a liar. Okay, now he said here, now you will note that the tribe of Dan is not mentioned, and that Manasseh has taken his place. And so Dan had gone into sin and the idolatry too many times. And so God really done away with the tribe. And he was replaced, as the leader, it was replaced by Manasseh. Now, who was Manasseh? Who was Ephraim and Manasseh? Anybody know who Ephraim and Manasseh was? Huh? Somebody had two sons down in Egypt. Someone was sold into slavery and became the leader in Egypt. Who was that? Huh? Joseph? That's right. So that was Joseph and all. And so he took the place of Dan. So you can lose your crowns and all if you don't do your job. Dan didn't do his job as a tribe. He didn't do it. So we've got to do our job. God knows where they're all at. You have to understand that Paul wasn't a Jew. Who knows what Paul was? Who? He was from another tribe. He wasn't from Judah.
Benjamin, wasn't it?
Huh?
Tribe of Benjamin, wasn't he from?
That's right. He was from the tribe of Benjamin was the smallest of all the tribes and all. And so anyway, that's where Paul came from and all. And so if you know your history, they were carried away by the Syrians after the Syrians conquered the 10 tribes. And they were carried away, and some of them was carried away up where today they went around the Mediterranean and all, and they went to the country today known as Turkey. But in those days it was known as Armenia. But because of wars, Turkey got a lot of the land that was from Armenia. But that's where a lot of the Benjamites lived, and were carried off there. And also we see who these are. He says this great multitude is identified in verse 14 as those who had been saved during the tribulation period under the preaching of the 144,000 chosen of God. They are from all nations, of every race, every ethnic group, and language known. This is the final fulfillment of Matthew 24:14, with the gospel of the kingdom is preached in all the world. And so we haven't done it as a church. In 2,000 years, we haven't got the gospel into all the world. Why haven't we got the gospel into all the world in 2,000 years? Now, these 144,000 are going to do it, that are going to come here, that are going to be saved here in chapter 7, 144,000 and all. Why haven't we done it? I'm going to tell you why we haven't done it. I had a man here, it was a mission, he was trying to raise money to get to the mission field. He wasn't real sharp, he was kind of slow and all, he wasn't that desirable. And he said, I've been on deputation 6 years. I just can't get enough money to get to the mission field. You know why he couldn't get enough money? Because the Christians wouldn't give it. That's the reason why. Oh yeah, they had money for an extra car, a new car. They had money for a four-wheeler. They had money for a season's tickets on the slopes. The slopes. They had enough money to be a member of the golf club. Oh yeah, and all of that. And they had a big. You go in their house, a big TV screen that bigger than that blue carpet up there, covering the wall. Well, the world goes to hell.
Have you seen that, Pastor?
And they ain't giving to missions. I'm telling you something. It's hard to get a mission dollar if you're a pastor. It's like pulling hen's teeth to get a dollar. It's not easy. But that's it. They got everything. You wouldn't believe what they have and all. And or just the average American. Even some of the poor ones. Somehow they figure out a way to get that TV. And all the kids have a cell phone. Yeah. And all missionaries can't get there to do the job. Because they won't give. That's the only way they can go. You know, they have to have help from us Christians. Once on the mission field, they will not let you work if you go as a missionary. You can't work. You have to be supported by the church. Some of them, you have to have so much money a month coming in before they'll even let you into the country. But, so, now you know why we never reach the world. But these Jews will, 144,000, during this tribulation. And then verse 10. Now look at verse 10. And cried with a loud voice. No, let's look at verse 9. I'm missing that. He said, and this I beheld a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations, kindreds, and people, and tongues stood before the throne, before the Lamb, clothed with white robes, and palms in their hands. It's that great multitude. Oh, listen, that's those people, these 144,000 went to the Lord and were martyred, just like those ones in Afghanistan. I just read it to you. They're being martyred by everywhere all over on the earth, because the Antichrist is going to try to make them take the mark of the beast and so on. That's going on now. If you don't go ahead and get the shot, you're going to work for that company. They're going to let you go. And so that's the forerunner of the mark of the beast. Yeah. So you get the mark of the beast. If you don't have the mark, you won't have a job. Okay. Now, so we see there, they're symbolized with white robes. That means they're saved. That's in John 12:13. But look here in verse 10 now. And these are the ones they cried with a loud voice, saying, salvation to our God, sitting upon the throne and to the Lamb. They're in heaven, and they're before the throne now. We're up there in heaven. We see them coming. Well, sure. Don't we see them coming across the border? By the thousands. We see them coming and being killed from all over the earth. They're coming up to heaven. We see them coming.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure, you see them. Well, let's look a little more here. Sit here. And so this verse is explanatory. You know, they're offering praise to God, and they come to heaven. They've been killed for nothing. They didn't get to live their lives on earth. They were murdered. They were martyred. Verse 11 says, and all the angels stood around about the throne. All the angels stood around about the throne and about the elders and the four beasts and fell before the throne on their faces and worshiped God. There's a lot of worship going on in heaven when we get there. Verse 12 says, this is what they're saying. They're saying, Amen. Blessed and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power might be unto our God forever and ever. Amen. And so they're praising God. They're not down there anymore being hunted down and killed and murdered and had their head cut off and cut up in pieces. They're not on earth anymore. And all. And so they're up in heaven. Verse 13 and 14. And one of the elders answered, saying unto me, what are these which are arrayed in white robes? And whence came they? Or where'd they come from? And I said unto them, Sir, thou knowest. And he said unto me, these are they which came out of great tribulation, and have washed their robes, and made white in the blood of the Lamb. And so we see here who they are. We know who the redeemed are. We'll move a little further. Verse 15. Therefore are they before the throne of God, and serve him day and night in his temple. And he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. So they're showing gratitude as they're in heaven.
Yes.
Verse 16. He said, they shall hunger no more. They shall thirst any more. Neither shall sun light on them, nor any heat. Now, that means that they froze to death. So look at that. A lot of them die of hunger because they don't have the mark. I mean, they can't buy or sell nothing. Yeah, they can't. They're hiding, but they just starve to death. They're not going to take the mark.
Right.
You see, they're not going to take it. He said, and they shall no more hunger. They died of hunger. Thirst anymore. A lot of them died of thirst. What did they die of thirst for? Well, think about it. If they went ahead and couldn't buy no food, they died of hunger. They just starved to death. And they couldn't get no water because, see, the water company set off their water because they didn't take the mark. Yeah. So they cut off the water. So they died of thirst. Nobody'd give them any either. They died of thirst. And then some of them froze to death because there wasn't no heat in their house. They couldn't get no wood for the wood stove or coal for their coal stove or a propane for their propane stove. And the gas was cut off. The natural gas was cut off. And they froze to death. And so you see here how they're dying. And then, of course, a lot of them were captured because they didn't have the mark. And in this area, they were taken down, right down Redwood Road to the FEMA camp. And their heads were cut off. Okay? So that's what, this area, that's what's going to happen to them. They get you without the mark. That's where you're going. Going right down there. And now they're going to take you down there. They're going to haul you down there. They have a big airport down here at the National Guard Station. The biggest airplanes in the world can land there. You didn't know that, did you? Oh, yeah. And it's just like the airport. It's big. And they're going to be bringing them in from all over who wouldn't take the mark. And taking them down there. They're going to cut their heads off. They're going to take their hearts out of their body and their lungs and their gizzard and their kidneys and bones and everything else and their eyes, eyeballs, and they're going to sell them.
No black market.
Well, yeah. Well, no, it won't be no black market. Antichrist will be in charge. Just like the mafia. You wouldn't believe what they're in charge of. How many of you know who the mafia is? Raise your hand. You ever heard of the mafia? Yeah. You wouldn't believe. You know, one of their big business now is the dump business. Yeah. And they have one right here in town, a big business that is the dump. They come to your house, pick up your garbage. They take it out to the pit, dump it out, and all, and take the iron out of it, and the good wood, anything's good, they take out, and all, and they bury the rest. But you know what else they bury in there with all that garbage and stuff? They bury the people they killed.
Oh, come on, Pastor. Really?
Well, yeah, you got to study the mafia, see what they do. And it's real easy to bury them in there because how are you going to find them? Yeah. Well, anyway, so that's what the Antichrist is going to be doing. He's going to be killing them right and left. Verse 17. For the Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them and shall lead them unto living fountains of water. God shall wipe away all their tears from their eyes. They're in heaven now. They're not going to suffer anymore. A lot of them saw their children killed, their loved ones killed, mom and daddy killed, and all they saw it. They were weeping. They were hungry and they were crying, thirsty and crying, and they died. He said, no more. He said, they don't have to weep anymore. God's going to wipe their tears away. He said, this is the positive side, reminding us of the words of Luke where Lazarus was comforted. In these last two verses, we learn of the terrible trials of these tribulation saints. They hungered, they thirst, they were without shelter. There was sorrow and many tears in their pilgrim journey. Now, though it is over and they are feeding on the manna of heaven, drinking from the fountain of the living water and all, and they are happy. And so you need to know when a person goes, now they're not in their body, that's their soul and spirit and all. God gives you a temporary body when you get there, because they haven't been resurrected yet. You see, the resurrection is right here is the resurrection, it's going to come here, and then the Lord's going to come back. When he comes back, these saints who are killed in the trib will be resurrected up and come with him. Okay. Now, you say, what is the soul and the body, what does the soul and spirit consist of? Okay. Well, here's what it does. When you die, your smell goes with you. A dead corpse laying in a box can't smell nothing. It goes with you. Oh, yeah. I mean, your sight goes with you. I mean, a dead guy laying in a box or a dead woman, they can't see nothing. Yeah, their sight goes with them. Their hearing goes with them. I mean, you just read the text, they heard the songs in heaven. You know, their hearing goes with them. Not only their hearing goes with them, but their speech goes with them. I've never heard of a dead man in a box that's been embalmed speak. Have you? I've never heard one. I've buried so many of them through the years. And stood right there at the head and preached a sermon. And so we find there that that part of speech, feet, you can't feel that they're laying there like that, hands like that. Have you ever seen a dead one laying there? They're laying there like that, dead. Some of them, they cross and put their hands like this. They don't feel nothing. Okay, their feelings go. Yeah, their appetite goes too. They don't have no appetite. They're not thirsty, But it goes with their soul and spirit to hell, because they're thirsty in hell. That rich man was thirsty in hell. He wanted water. But all that goes and all. So that's something to think about, chapter 8. Okay, it would be good for us to stop and look back as we come to the opening of the seventh seal. The differences in the judgments are as follows. The seal judgment look at mankind as a whole and show how these judgments affect nations of people. The trumpet judgment shows God's judgment upon creation as it affects man upon the earth. The vial judgment shows God's judgment upon the physical bodies of people. We also notice that there's a definite turn from the fourth seal, judgment, and the fourth trumpet judgment to the three remaining seals and the trumpet judgment. First four grouped along the same lines as are the last three. Now, some theologians want to make these plagues follow one another. Others show how the trumpet judgments emerge from the seven seal judgments, and then how the vial judgments emerge from the seven trumpet judgments. Whether this is correct or not, we have to use your to discern discretion. And one thing is clear: we are dealing with the same period of time and all those different judgments. In my opinion, we see here are different views of the same judgment period. And so we see here, it says the parenthesis in chapter 7 shows the preserving of the 144,000 chosen servants of God. God is showing that he makes a difference between the chosen servants and the lost, condemned world. Revelation 16:2. It's made clear that only those who receive the mark of the beast will be hurt by those seven judgments through. That is not to say that they will not suffer through deprivation of food, water, and other necessities of life. And so we see now we are coming to the close here of the seals and all. So let's take so we can learn here. Verse 1 says, and when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. He said the opening of the seventh seal, now got to remember, the Lord's opening these seals, and all of a sudden there's silence. Nothing moves. Nothing moves. They're just standing there like a statue listening. Okay, get the picture. And all. The opening of the seventh seal, followed by the silence of half an hour, tells us that the following judgments are so terrible that all the heavens stands in awe, literally speechless in view of what is about to come upon the earth. It's one of the most serious moments you'll find recorded in the entire Bible. Okay, now you think things were bad, the other things we looked at, it gets worse. Look here at verse 2. And I saw the seven angels who stood before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. Now they're going to announce now, from here, the seven trumpets that's going to happen. Okay? So more is going to happen every time they blow a trumpet. Something more horrible is happening on earth. Okay? So he's showing you what's going to happen. So what's going to keep you from getting out there and doing what God wants you to do? We have a shortage of preachers today in our country. And you know why we do? It's not that God ain't calling them, because God don't change. It's they won't go. They make up excuses why they don't go. Yeah, they won't go. Some of them have been trained and can do the best job, but they won't go. That's right. I have a son won't go. His name is Joe. He's been thoroughly trained. He knows everything. He graduated out of Bible college, but he won't go. And all. And we have to pray for him continually that maybe he will go before it's too late. Verse 2. And so we see here that the seven trumpets are fixing to blow. The use of trumpets in the Old Testament were used to get the attention of the people. So when they blow the trumpet, they're going to make a famous speech or something, okay? So that's what that means. And now look at verse 3. Another angel came and stood in the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And so these are the prayers of the saints, and the saints of those who are killed in the trib already. It's going to get worse, though. That's just a little bit what we saw. The golden censer was used in the Old Testament tabernacle to the temple of Solomon to offer incense before God in the Holy of Holies. So now you know what that incense represents. Verse 4 says, and the smoke of the incense which came with the prayers of the saints ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. And the sweet incense comes up before God, offered with the prayers of the saints. That means all those saints. This was acceptable in that the purpose was to carry out the will of God. Verse 5 says, and the angel took the censer and filled it with the fire of the altar, cast it into the earth, and there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and earthquake. Now we see more is happening on earth and all. And, people are afraid of thunder and lightning. How many of you are afraid of thunderings and lightning? People are afraid of that. So when it gets horrible, it'll scare you to death. Thundering and lightning will. You see them lightning bolts coming down and hitting the earth. I had a missionary show up here one time. He's going to come preach, and we were going to try to raise him some money if the people would just give it, but they won't. They went and bought a new four-wheeler. A new color TV. But anyway, we couldn't help him, and he said, I was driving down from Las Vegas, and I was driving along the road, and the thunder came and the lightning. He said, I saw a bolt of lightning come down and hit the mountain, and it was like a huge bomb going up. It just threw rocks everywhere. He was driving, and he saw that happen. And just to get a picture of what's going to be happening here on earth. I mean, a lot of them people who are the main ones leading the killings, and all of a sudden, a bolt of electricity is going to hit their house and just knock it down and burn it up. Think of it, yeah. There's a lot of houses that are building new ones every day. Have you noticed? Yeah. He said, now, verse 6, that in the trumpet judgments, we see that when things are fixing to happen. And the seven angels, notice that, which had seven trumpets, prepared themselves to sound. So now they're going to sort the sound. The first angel sounded. So now this first judgment, the angel is sounding. Here it is right here. the first judgment. The seals have been done. Time has gone by. We've moved further in. And now, this first judgment, he's going to do something. What's he going to do? Let's see what he's going to do. You know, and he said, the first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood. And they were cast upon the earth. The third part of the trees was burnt up. The green grass was burnt up. So you think about that. Now here's what's happening. When he blows that trumpet, more is going to happen on earth. Hail. Now this hail is going to be big blocks of hail like this chair here, or bigger. Bigger than the chair, like that desk back there in the back. Going to be falling out of the sky. That hits your house, it's going to just tear it apart. Yeah. The ice. And all. And then the ice is going to melt, and finally the police are going to get there, and they say, ice is all melted. How could that hole got in there? There ain't nothing, no rock here or nothing. Yeah, and all, it melted. The water's gone. And they don't know that's going to happen, but we know, you see. He said, and the fire mingled with blood. There's fire mingled with blood. That means a lot of houses will burn, and the people will burn up in them, and they'll be injured, and blood will be flowing out of them. And they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of the trees was burnt. And so now a third of all the trees on earth, talk about a big forest fire. We've had some big ones this year, nothing compared. A third of all the trees on earth are going to be burning. And all green grass was burnt up. Notice that. All green grass. Now, what does it take to grow a cow? It takes green grass. Do you like steak? How many of you like steak? I like a good steak sometimes, but they're expensive. Maybe one every 6 months. That's pretty good. They're expensive, and all, and they're going to be dying. The goats are going to be dying. He says, and I believe that this is literal fire, hell, fire, blood that are cast upon the earth. And so we see here, and he used the example of the plagues in Israel, where the river and the water turned to blood. And also, a third part of the trees, that's pretty bad. And also, let's move a little further on here. Let's go to verse 8. He says, and the second angel sounded. Now, the second angel is going to sound this next trumpet right here. See? He's going to sound it. And so it's what he's going to tell us. He's trying to tell us living right now. So we can go get them saved. Because when the rapture takes place and goes up, all these lost people aren't going to know about this stuff and understand it. But we do. We understand it. He said, and the second angel sounded, and where a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. The third part of the sea became blood. Okay, so that means the ocean now. 1/3 is blood. That means all the fish that die. And the lobsters and the seashells and all the things y'all like to eat. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died. Third part of the ships were destroyed. So you think of all the ships, and it gives you a picture of all the ships that are floating around there on the earth. There's thousands at one time, at all time. Many thousands, hundreds of thousands floating around the oceans. A third of them are going to go down to David's locker. David's locker, they're going to go down to David's locker. Yeah, David's locker is the ship they're in.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's their cemetery. Yeah, and all, so they go down. And then, so you see here what's happening here. And all, the sea became blood. All the creatures are dead. So a lot of people, depending on the sea to feed them, aren't going to get fed. He said, verse 10 and 11. And the third angel sounded, and the third angel is going to sound, so more is going to happen on earth. There's the third one right here. He's going to blow that trumpet. This is what else is going to happen on earth. The third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp. It fell upon the third part of the rivers, upon the fountains of the water. The name of the star is called wormwood. Third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. Now, where's this star going to land? Going to land where there's 3 or 4 rivers come off the top of the mountain. Where's that? There's only one place like that on earth. You know where that is? It's at Yellowstone.
Oh, really?
What are the rivers that come out of Yellowstone? Well, one of them is the Yellowstone River. Okay, what is another one? Huh? The Madison? The Snake? Oh yeah, the Green River?
Okay.
And all, they all come out and they all flow in different directions into the different oceans of the world. Okay, the Snake flows to the Pacific and all. And the Madison let me see, the Madison flows, yeah, it flows also to the Atlantic. And then the green flows all the way south between the two oceans, to the Gulf of California, between the two oceans, okay? And so they all flow to a different ocean, and it starts at Yellowstone, okay? Wormwood's going to hit it, and if you drink that water, you know, a lot of the cities are depending on the water from these rivers. People will die. Yeah, they're going to die, and they're going to be poisoned to death. And so you got to go see Yellowstone while you're still alive. The highest mountain there has raised 30 feet in the last 20 years. It keeps going up. Yeah, it's getting ready for wormwood to hit it. It could blow too. If the volcano blows, it'll cover up a big part of Wyoming, and it'll go all the way into Kansas and Nebraska, all that dust in the air, and kill many people. Because that's the way the wind blows. He said in verse 12, the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, the third part of the stars. So the third part of them was darkened. The day shone not for the third part. It was it was the night that like it. So that means that you only have 2/3 of daylight. So we won't grow no food in Utah. It takes every moment we can get sun to grow food here. Okay. And believe me, our garden, I know. You better plant it just right if you're going to get your tomatoes or your watermelons or your pumpkins. You have to do it just right. And so that's going to happen all over the earth. So now, third part of the earth, because of the sun, it won't shine, it won't grow nothing. More people are going to be dying of cold. Verse 13. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of other voices of the trumpet, and the three angels which are to sound. And so we see what's happening now. This angel saying, Whoa, whoa, whoa. And it says, Listen, listen, listen. It's the explanation of grief. More grief is coming on this earth. You know, now all this we're reading, it don't sound like it could happen. But it will. But God said so. It's going to happen. Okay? You know. And you show that to a believer, he'll think you're crazy, probably. And,
They'll say something like this is like a Hollywood movie or something, you know.
oh yeah, they're showing that stuff on movies. A lot of them believe that now. Maybe they'll believe Revelation. You know. All right, we have to stop there, and also we'll do that. And so go ahead and close up in prayer, and then we'll go into another exciting adventure in the Word of God. We're going to study camps. We'll study some things here that's going to really help you in the next lecture. Okay, and now nobody run off, because you need to learn what's going to be taught. Huh?
You said don't run on fast.
Go ahead and pray.
Okay, Father, we come to you now. Thank you for this time of class. And let us get it down to heart and spirit, the urgency of the times we're living in, getting busy for you. You just make soul contact.